Hello, 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 hello. Welcome in, welcome in. We are going to get started because I got a lot to do. So I will talk quite a few times throughout this live, again, sharing the process that I am going through for this so that you can see what we're working on. So today is Fat Tuesday. And so Fat Tuesday for me is anything that has to deal with the fat quarter shop. And so I am working on, and I don't know why this just looks dark for some reason. Okay. I'll be working on the next block for the Jolly Bar Quilt Along. And so this is the book for the Quilt Along. And this is the Jolly Bar book. And this is volume 5. And we are making a sample block. It's a sampler quilt. So we're making a sample block from 10 of the 20 patterns that are in this book. And so on this page, for the table of contents, you can see where I labeled them with pencil next to it. So far we have worked on these quilts. So, I'm sorry, not these quilts, but these blocks for each of these quilts. So we started with the hatchlings, and then we worked our way down to the holly berry. We worked on Northern Lights, reflections, and today we're working on the Scattered Stars quilt. Hello, 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 everyone. Good evening. So we are working on this block, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to go. So we are halfway, after today, we will be halfway through the blocks that are needed for the sampler quilt. So again, this book is called the Jolly Bar book. And there are 20 Jolly Bar quilts in this book. You can find the link in my bio. This is from the Fat Quarter Shop. And the Jolly Bar is specific to the Fat Quarter Shop. You don't have to use Jolly Bars. I know that I have Jolly Bars that I use for this. I'm using Denim and Daisies. That link is also found in my bio. But if you are following Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, she actually used layer cakes. So layer cakes are 10 by 10 inch squares. I use a Jolly Bar, which is 5 by 10 inch, what we would call rectangles. So they are specific to Jolly Bar. They are specific to the Fat Quarter Shop. So you could use that, you could use scraps, you could use whatever you like to complete this particular quilt pattern. Okay. So if I can turn to the right page, I can show you what the quilt will look like. So that's the finished quilt, but we are not making the whole quilt. So the quilt has big blocks, but within those blocks are small blocks. And so we are doing a lot of half square triangles. And so this is what it will look like when it is finished. And we are just working on an individual block. So in the interest of time, I did do some prep work because we would be here until Christmas trying to get some of this done. Hello, 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 everyone. How are you doing this evening? So let me show you a little bit in part what needs to happen. For this block, we are going to need 16 of these smaller blocks. So I've already done one. Is it 16? It's 16 total. Got to look at my measurements. I think it is 12. We need 12 of these and 4. Okay, so we need, okay, that did seem like a lot. So we need 12 of these and we need 4 of these. So there's a total of 16 blocks. I've done one of each so far, so I do need to complete all the rest of the blocks. And just make sure that I didn't miss anything in there. Hello, 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 everyone. Okay, so we made half square triangles already, but I still have 4 more to go. And that's just in case anyone is new to the live. I wanted to make sure that I did a few on here. Most of the blocks that we've created throughout the weeks have been half square triangles. So it's the same process if you've already been following. And that's one of the reasons why I said, let me just go ahead and knock out the majority of these, because nobody wanted to sit here and watch me do as many half square triangles as I had to. So we take our squares, and with whatever 2 fabrics we're using for half square triangles, we place them together, right sides together. Got a little bit of lint, I'll get that off of there. I'm using white on white fabric, and so because I'm using, Laura, it's off-white on off-white, but it's still white on white. I need to look close enough to see which is the right side and which is the duller side, just because I do mix that up from time to time. Use my ruler, and we're going to go from corner to corner. Ruler's upside down. I can feel the tape on this side, but that's okay. You make a mark, and then we'll do the next one. One corner to the other corner. This will make 2 half square triangles at the same time. So this is a little faster than if I would have cut out the triangles and made them individually. So we start with a block that is bigger than the triangular dimensions, the sides. Then I would want them, and then I square them up to get the final half square triangles. So those measurements are already given to us in the pattern. And there are other tutorials that are online that you could use if I weren't using Jolly Bar. Pre-cuts, I could use yardage and then go online and find out how to make half square triangles using yardage and bigger squares. Okay, so once all the lines are on these, I'm going to take them to my machine, and I'm going to stitch a 1/4 inch on either side of the line. Just a pro tip, if you are stitching a 1/4 inch away from that line, it is better to do a little scant of a 1/4 inch than to go greater than a 1/4 inch. Because in most cases, the patterns are going to just give you a little bit of fabric to square up, because nobody wants to waste a lot of fabric when squaring up. If you feel some kind of way about your 1/4 inch, or you're a little afraid that sometimes when you do half square triangles, they fall a little short, my suggestion would be to take the measurement. Let's say the blocks were 5 inches, 5 inches square. You could go to 5 1/4. You could go to 5 1/2. That means you'll have a little more left over when you're squaring up. But if you like it just because it'll give you a more wiggle room to play with, then, you know, absolutely go ahead and do that. Okay, so each one was stitched, and you can see the original line, and you can see the line that I stitched, and now I'm going to stitch on the other side. Because remember, we're creating 2 half square triangles, so I need a 1/4 inch, at least a 1/4. Like I said, I prefer to do a scant 1/4 inch, a little less than a 1/4 inch, to ensure that when I get the final block and I square it up, that it will be a little bit greater than the final measurement, so that I can get accurate measurements when I clean everything up. And that's because a lot of times when you're doing this, sometimes your hand goes a little bit crooked when you're stitching. Sometimes your measurements can be a little off. And so this just helps me to ensure that I will get the closest fitting block that I can. Because if it's a little off on the smaller side as you go, if you're not paying attention to the measurements, eventually when you finish up the blocks, you might need to, you know, finish a, like, let's say 5-inch block, and let's say it's 4 1/4, 3/4, or 4 1/2, like, you're out of luck and your blocks are going to be smaller. It's not the end of the world, but it will change the dimensions of your quilt. Okay. So then you can see here that I have lines on both sides. This is the line that I drew in the center. So now I can do this one of two ways. I can either take my ruler, well, I could do it one of 3 ways, technically. Line this up with that center line. My stitch lines are on either side of the center line. And I can just cut to give myself the 2 half square triangles. And if you're working on a project, the more half square triangles you can make at one time, the better. Because like I said, this can be tedious, and we'll get into some details and things as I am squaring up the rest of them. The second way is to take everything, put it on a line on your mat. So this is going from here to here. And then just line all the lines up. Let me move this out the way, because, you know, I will cut something. And I'm just taking my time to line everything up. Okay, I only have 3 of them. And then I can take my ruler along all those center lines. And then just go straight down that center. I probably didn't, oh, got it, okay. That's what happens when you put a new blade in. And I cut all of them. So I didn't have to do individual ones, so I could do that. The third way that I could have done this, which I didn't save myself one, is just to take my rotary cutter. Let me not cut this again. And just run it right along and cut that without using a straight edge. So it's totally up to you which way you want to go. So once everything is finished, we have all of these half square triangles that I need to press. So we're going to press these. Let me move these out the way. I'm going to move my iron over as we press them. And what we want to do is press them open to look like this. I prefer for my half square triangles to get pressed to the dark side. And that way it doesn't show up, like you could almost see it here for what we're talking about. If it was pressed to the light side, you see how the dark shows through this light right here? That would happen throughout the whole quilt if it were pressed to the light side. It's not the end of the world, because when you put the batting and the backing on it, notice how it kind of doesn't show up as much, so it's not as pronounced. So it's not the end of the world if it gets pressed to the light side, because sometimes it's unavoidable for that to happen. So usually we will press to the dark side so that it doesn't shine through the white. But like I said, sometimes it can't be avoided. Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome into what I have called Fat Tuesday. I thought for a minute that I had all these half square triangles to press. In between there are some squares that I need. Okay. Ooh, I got scared there for a minute. I was like, is that crazy? Was I thinking correctly? Okay. So all these have to be pressed. So this is what we'll be pressing. So welcome in while we're pressing these. I am working on the next quilt block for the Fat Quarter Shop for our quilt along. This is the Jolly Bar 5 Volume 5 book. And this is from the Fat Quarter Shop. The link is in my bio. This book includes 20 Jolly Bar quilts, even though you could use your stash. So you do not have to use the you don't have to use the Jolly Bars that they suggest. Everything comes with the what you need for the Jolly Bars, but you could figure it out with yardage and do the same exact thing. Jolly Bars are 5-inch by 10-inch rectangles. They are pre-cuts that you can buy exclusively from Fat Quarter Shop. I am using a line called Denim and Daisies. And so we are making the shattered glass. It is glass, right? No, I don't think it's shattered. Shattered stars, Lord. This is a shattered star. So this is what we're making. But we're only making this block. Okay, if I can get my fingers over there. So we're not making all 4 of them. We're only making one. Okay. And I don't need that. So I've cut all the half square triangles out that I needed, and now it is time to get to pressing. Now, I was working on a project this weekend, so if you can hear in the iron as I am pressing these open, you do hear steam. Because of the project that I was working on, but typically I use a dry iron. It is not the end of the world to use an iron that has water in it. I could dump the water out. I could really take this off of steam. That would solve that problem. And then at least it won't have any extra steam coming out of it, which is fine. Again, I am pressing to the dark side. So I'll press the dark on top and then use my iron to set the thread and then press open the block. Again, I am pressing to the dark side, so I am not using the method where most people would open up the seams, because to me that takes too long, number one, and number two, that wasn't the way that I was taught how to do it. And I'm okay doing it, pressing it to one side. So I would absolutely say press according to preference. So if you tell me that somebody at the quilt shop said that it was easier to press your seams open, and therefore you decide that you want to preference pressing them open, then knock yourself out and press them open. If for some reason you are like me and you've been taught to close them, just press them to one side, then again, like I said, it's not a problem. I would be consistent with whatever I do, so it doesn't make a difference which way you go, but just be consistent. And then if you find yourself having to open them, be consistent with where you open them. Because sometimes if all the points go into one corner, sometimes it's hard not to open up those seams. And so even though I turn let me see if I turn it to wool. Even though I turn the steam off, it's still giving steam. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's not going to worry too much. If you have already used steam with them as you were cutting them and as you were starching these and anything else that you were doing, there shouldn't be too much shrinkage. Hey, Gail, how are you doing, darling? So again, I can do these one by one. I am starting with the dark side up. So that way when I flip it open, it's automatically forcing me to press my seam to the dark side. So actually the pressing isn't going to be the problem for me. And it's not even a problem. What's going to be tedious for me is squaring these blocks up. that's going to be the most time consuming for me. And that's just because, you know, you want that to be accurate so that, whoops, press that out right. So that's where you really want to pay attention to what you're doing. Okay. And like I said, there are quite a few half square triangles in this. This block is going to be bigger. It's almost like 30 inches square. So it's a big block. This one is big. So when you make this, if you're doing the whole quilt, you're making a whole lot of half square triangles. And there are a lot of patterns that call for a lot of half square triangles. And usually I avoid half square triangles like the plague because it just drives me bananas to have a whole lot of small pieces. But I will say this, the end result for having a lot of half square triangles makes a quilt almost like, it's just stunning, I think. When you're using patchwork, just regular blocks, depending on the fabric, it can come out to be like, yes, this is absolutely gorgeous. But for me, it's the half square triangles. It's the triangles, I should say, in general. Because in some cases, they could be like 60-inch triangles, which also gives a great look. 60 degree, I should say. Triangles, which also gives it a great look. But it's the triangles for me. So again, hello, everyone. I am working on the Scattered Stars. It is the 5th block for our Sew Along or Quilt Along for the Fat Quarter Shop for the Jolly Bar book. The book can be found in my link tree in my bio. There is still time to join in. We've only made 5 blocks. We've only made 4 blocks so far because this is the 5th block. And we're only making a block every 2 weeks. So you have plenty of time to catch up and to join in along with us on this quilt along. So again, we are on block number 5. This is called the Scattered Stars. And I am just in the process, almost finished, of pressing out all these half square triangles that I had to make. So there are some things for the pattern that, of course, I am not giving just because they are, with a pattern, and patterns cost money. And unfortunately, even though I live in a world where free is for me, I do understand and have no problem with the fact that some things have to be paid for. And there is one pattern that I am thinking about getting. And I was like, woo, it costs how much? But I just love this pattern. And so, I am thinking about getting it. But my question is do I want to pay to have that and print it out? Or do I want to just find it in the quilt shop somewhere and pay for the actual pattern? Because if it's going to cost me the same amount for me to print it out and organize it in color that it is for me to go to the quilt shop and get it, I may just get it from the quilt shop. I don't have a color printer here at home. And so, I got to get creative when it comes to that. And some things I do prefer patterns in color. If a pattern is easy enough for me, I don't mind it in black and white. And I can use my computer to see it. But then there are some patterns that I prefer to have on the table. And I like to see them in the colors that they're supposed to be in. Now, when I make the quilt, I'm not going to make it with the same colors that the designer has. I am going to switch it up a little bit just because I do like my own color scheme. So I do gravitate towards certain colors. So even in this Denim and Daisies, orange, blue, I was like, yes, this is perfect. But this will not be done until after Christmas, because again, we're doing it every 2 weeks. So it's almost like 2 blocks a month. So we'll have 2 blocks, another block for this month, 2 in November, 1 in December, and then we're going to have to put the whole quilt together, which will take us almost all through December to get done. Okay. Did I square that one up? Okay. So these are all the blocks again. These blocks, you see it's a nice pile of them, right? So now we have to get those from that to this. And this is just nice and clean, and that's what we need to do with these. I do the same thing. Okay. Hello, user. How are you? Going back, just looking at some of the comments to see if I missed anything. And I know I already spoke to Gail. So hello, everyone. Hey, Joshy. How are you doing, darling? I'm going to use a smaller ruler. You can use a bigger one. Don't ask me where it is. The bigger the ruler, the more room you need on your mat to cut it. The smaller the ruler, the easier it is to fit. It just depends on the dimensions of your block. So what we're going to do is there is a diagonal here, and there's a diagonal on this, and we're going to line up that diagonal with the block. If you don't have a ruler like this, you could use your mat, and you can see there's a line right here. I could line this up with this and use the measurements of the mat. I feel like that's a little harder to do, and so I opt not to do it that way, but that's absolutely a way that you can do it. And so if you do prefer to do it that way, you can absolutely use your mat instead of using a ruler. It is totally up to you. I like convenience, so sometimes I will go out and spend the money for convenience. And me having this type of ruler to square up my quilts is like a game changer for me. So I do prefer to have a ruler like this that I can use. Okay, so then that goes in that pile. And then we'll do the next one. So it's going to take me a couple minutes just to square up all of these blocks. And even though I will be paying attention to the numbers, if there is a question that you have, I can, absolutely talk and do this at the same time. So I will look over to my phone just to make sure that I'm not missing anything, as well as, working on these. So again, just taking it and lining up that arrow, that diagonal. And I am cutting off excess and making sure that the blocks meet the measurement that is in the pattern. So they will tell you what the final block for the half square triangle should measure. And then you are staying within those measurements when you are squaring this up. Squaring up so just the importance of squaring up. Again, you'll see, here is my scrap here. There's not a lot of scrap, and I've done like 3 of them so far. The goal is not to have a whole lot of waste when you're doing this. I don't want a big pile of strips when I'm finished. So hopefully the pattern has me within maybe a 1/16 of an inch of fabric that I'm just shaving off of there. It's not much more than that, because fabric is expensive. And what we don't want to do is have a whole pile of waste that we can't use for anything else, because really, other than stuffing a pillow or something with that, there's not much you could do with this. Now, of course, there are people that can use those strips in art quilt, but for the most part, yeah, I'm not doing that. Hey, Miss Karen, how are you doing, darling? So we're lining this up, and again, just getting rid of that little bit of excess. And once you kind of get into the rhythm of this, it goes relatively quickly. So there are a lot of squares. Sometimes I will have the TV on and I will watch TV while I'm doing this. So like yesterday, I was watching Hocus Pocus because yeah, I like things that deal with witches. That's my one Halloween thing. I'm not really a Halloween person, but I do like I like certain Halloween shows, and Hocus Pocus is one. So I already watched Hocus Pocus 1 yesterday, and then of course I have to watch the Hocus Pocus 2. So I'll be watching that. Of course, Charlie Brown, The Great Pumpkin, we have that coming up. So there are some traditional shows that absolutely I am going to watch for the Halloween season. Now, y'all know I'm all things Christmas. So, of course, in addition to watching those seasonal Halloween things, absolutely, I am watching all of the Christmas shows. So all of the old Christmas oldie but goodies are already up and running. Some of them have never stopped. And so I am watching those, as well as anticipating the new ones for Hallmark and all the other channels that will do Christmas movies. So I am anxiously waiting for those to come up. And that's when, like I said, sometimes I will plan out different parts of the quilt, like during those times when I can mindlessly just sit there and listen and look up on occasion, because I'm kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again. So it's not like I'm missing a step, I'm getting into a rhythm. So again, getting back to squaring up these half square triangles, key to squaring these up is that if you square them up and you have the measurements that you're supposed to have when you are putting the blocks together, it will help. I won't say guarantee, because you can mess something else up along the way, but it will help with accuracy when you get to the final blocks. So when I first started quilting, I didn't measure everything the way that I should have. And ultimately what happened is that when I got to the final block, one block may have been bigger than the other block. And then they didn't line up correctly, which meant that I had waves. And it also meant that, you know, that the blocks would be off, which meant that the seams would be off. And then, you know, it still looked like a wonderful quilt, but it just didn't have that perfect look for some people who prefer something close to perfection, because nothing's perfect. But sometimes when you look at it, you don't want to see it being so far off that it makes a difference in what it looks like in your eyes. Because technically, the only person that's going to know that it's off is you. Now, another quilter might look at it and say, oh, that doesn't line up. And unless they're the quilt police, they're not going to say anything to you about it, but they're going to look and they're going to know. So, of course, I will look at a lot of people's posts and I see their quilts and I'm like, they didn't line that up. But I'm not going to sit there and say in the comments, wow, you should have lined that up a little bit better. Now, if my friend wants a suggestion, I may, you know, make some suggestions on lining it up, but I do start off with, that's beautiful, because it is. Unless it's not, you know, to each his own. If that's not in my taste, it's not in my taste. But, you know, for the most part, if it is something that, you know, is good looking, I mean, I like it. You love it, I like it. So, you know, we start off with a compliment, and then, you know, like I said, if they say, well, what do you think I could do to fix this, then I'll, you know, give some suggestions, but I don't give suggestions if you don't ask. I do not believe in giving unsolicited advice. You can ask for my opinion. I am not just giving it to you. Now, me personally, I'm not as thin-skinned. I have a very thick skin, so there are people that will come into my comments and they'll say, oh, you should have did this, and I'm like, that's fine. I don't mind it because I look at it as a growing point from people. I don't look at it as, you know, you're ripping my thing to shreds for whatever I do. So I will absolutely, you know, take that for what it's worth. But like I said, that's because I'm confident in my skill set and I'm not worried about criticism. I was like, I've been criticized all my life. And my mother, God rest her soul, was my biggest critic whenever it came to me making things. So I am not about to sit here and be upset because somebody else tells me that I could have done something a little bit better than what I did. Or if, you know, like when I'm working on projects, especially like my jelly roll, if you want to tell me what I need to do to make it better, knock yourself out. Because right now that thing is sitting in a big bowl waiting for me to get to it because I'm so nervous about working with this because it is my first time doing a jelly roll rug. And honestly, I don't want to mess it up. I've seen what other like people who have said, hey, look, this is how mine came out because it was a little wonky and, you know, they ended up taking it out to do it again, to straighten it out. And I was like, wow, you know, and I get that happens. And I'm just trying to figure out like how not to have that happen for me. Hey, Tammy, how are you? And again, you know, it's nothing wrong with it. You know, we're learning from, you know, tips and tricks that they're giving as a result of them doing something incorrect or not taking an extra step. And I'm like, okay, so I need to keep this step in mind and I need to do this. But I tell you, dealing with that little widget that we had to make the tube, I was like, whew, this was work. But every now and then I do like a good challenge. So I am looking forward to the end result. And in this case, I paid for that kit. So I absolutely don't want it to be, I don't want it to be a bust in terms of what I do because that was hard-earned money. Even though a lot of the fabric that I already have in this house is hard-earned money, and I still have the nerve to have it all in the house. Okay, we have about 12 more to go, and then all these will be done. Thank you for tapping the screen. I appreciate you. And once we put these together, so these will go together in 4 patches. And then I believe we will put those 4 patches together in rows. And then from rows, create the final block. Now, I did think about doing 4 patch. We'll see how I feel. But I know that the initial 4 patches will go together and I can show you what those 4 patches will look like. Thank you. We are at 1.9K. I do appreciate you for tapping the screen. And we are going to go on the other side. And again, this is just a matter right now of just getting all of these done. And the good thing is that when we get to the 4 patch, we can square that 4 patch block up. Then when we make the bigger 4-patch, we can square that one up. And then when we make the final one, that's going to be bigger than my mat, but I can figure out how to square that one up as well. I don't know if I have a mat as wide as that one, but I can still work it out because I can do that with the length of the mat, just not the width of the mat. Okay, now I said, is it hot in this house or is that a flash? And I think that was, yeah, that was a flash. Because thank goodness it's going away. Because I can't tell with this weather. I'm like, do you leave the air on? Or no air? It's not really heat weather. It's not really sweater weather. Even though it's supposed to be a little bit cooler tomorrow. So we're just going through. And again, just doing the measurements to line everything up. Okay. And I think, what do we have, like 5 left? 5 or 6 left. So again, welcome in. For anyone that is here, this is what I have deemed as Fat Tuesday for me. I am working on all things on Fat Quarter, from the Fat Quarter Shop on Tuesdays, when I go live on Tuesdays. So we are working on the Jolly Bar 5 sampler quilt along. And so this is a combination of 10 blocks, 10 different blocks. They're not 10, there's more than 10 blocks because some of those blocks are either doubled or quadrupled depending on the layout of the sampler. And we are assembling a block every other week. One of the things that I like about sampler quilts is that, and I have quite a few of them. I have 3. I got one that I need to finish. But what I like is it gives you the opportunity to either try different types of blocks out that may all be pieced, or try different blocks and different techniques. So this one doesn't have a whole lot of different techniques of block making. This is all pieced blocks. But there are some that you will run across for samplers that may have applique in them. They may have paper piecing in them, just to give you an opportunity to try all those out. Hey, Joseph. And I like that because it gives you an opportunity to try out something that you might not otherwise use. And what the great thing is about it is that it's your quilt. And so because it's your quilt, if you don't like the paper piecing, you absolutely, in some cases, in most cases, it'll change the look of your quilt a little bit from the original, but who cares? If all the blocks are 12.5 inches, let's say, I can find another 12.5 inch block and use that block in the quilt versus using the one that I don't like because my paper piecing didn't turn out the way that I liked it, and now I'm stuck with this. So that's what I like about samplers, is that you can kind of sort of somewhat switch it up. I got 2 more to go. So, you know, and then what I also like, you know, for my bag people out there, you find that block that you like, and if you're into fabric totes, or a combination of fabric and vinyl, you can absolutely use that, what we like to call an orphan block, that block that is not going to be with anything else, and you could turn it into like a tote. So it's a great way to use blocks for totes. And that jacket is at work, but I have a block. Well, it's not really an orphan because it has other siblings with it around here somewhere. I use that one to create a jacket, so the block is in the center of the jacket. So you could use that for garments as well. So there are plenty of ways to make quilted jackets and to use those blocks for those, as well as in quilts. You can use them for pillows. So a lot of different ways that you could use those blocks if you have them left over. Okay. So all of those have been done. And just so you can see, this is what I have that's absolutely left over as a result of the squaring up. So it's not a lot. I should not have a lot of fabric if this is done correctly. So that's going to go in the pile that I have for all my scraps, because I can use those to stuff pillows, so we can save as many as we possibly can. So this ruler can go away. So now what we have are these blocks. So there is a block that looks like this, and I need 12 of them, so that's 11 with that. No, I need 4 of them. I need 12 of these. So I can make the 4 or the 12, it doesn't matter, but let's just go ahead and knock these out. So these are 4 patches. And I know that they are 4 patches because it's 1, 2, 3, 4 different blocks. Now within the blocks are 2 half square triangles and then 2 solids. But together they make 4 patches. As a matter of fact, I know what I want to do. There's a method to my madness. Whoops, as I get ready to burn myself on that iron. I'm going to start with these. Again, these are 4 patches, but it's 1 solid and then 1, 2, 3 half square triangles. Okay, so I'm going to lay these out. And if I've already used the fabric, I'm going to set it over to the side for a minute. What I'm going to try to do as best as I can is not to have a lot of duplicates in that center. And that's why I'm going to start with the center. Around the edges, I'm not too worried about it, but I just don't want to see the center have a lot of duplicates in them. Okay. Now somewhere in here, I think I cut a whole bunch more of these than I had to, but I know I'll be using them in future blocks. Okay. So that's possibly 1. We've used that one already. These are the same. I don't know that I want to use that. And I know I'm not going to have enough of these, so I am going to have to duplicate this at some point, and that's okay. I just want to make sure that wherever I duplicate it at, it's not in the same place as the one that I had before it. And this is, okay, so we have that. Okay, so I think I've used them all. So now I'm going to mix up the last one. And I just want to make sure that these, okay, and the corners are not the same. So we have 1, 2, 3. We're going to use this one. And we'll use I'm going to take this out just to give it a little bit more contrast here. Now, I'm going to leave that there. And then I'll take this one. And then I think that was in this corner, so I'll take this one. Okay. And then I need... Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate you, darling. We'll go here. We'll just make sure that I'm making sure that all of my pieces are facing up. And I don't know that you can see that, but on this side, opposed to this side, there are little dots. And so because there are these little dots, I want to make sure they're in the right direction so that they aren't backwards. Okay. So we're going to move this out the way. And then these will be for this block over here. So I'm going to move all that. And then we are going to finish this. So we're going to make all three of those because I already have one. Oh, okay. Easiest way to do a 4-batch. Once everything 1, 2, 3, 4 are done the way they're supposed to be, is to take them and just flip them. You want them to stay in the same order, so leave them flipped. I'm not going to change them out until after I chain piece everything. So I'm going to go flip, flip, top to bottom, flip, flip, top to bottom. Secure the pieces together. And then I'm going to take it to my machine and stitch a 1/4 inch. Okay, and again, just straight down, a 1/4 inch. And this is a lot of chain piecing, which, is a little monotonous. And again, that's when you get that TV out, you find some way to entertain yourself because you're going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. So you're not making, each week we're making a different block, so we don't have the monotony. But in the week while we're making the block that we're making, there are some parts that we're going to run that are going to be over and over and over again. Okay, so those two are done. Then we're going to flip, and then stitch the second blocks. And again, we're just doing the columns right now. We'll go back and do the rows as soon as we finish the columns. And I'm just doing one right after the other, so I am not snipping them off after I get finished. I'm just chain stitching. Oops, I have more pieces than I should have had. Okay, we'll leave that one right there. So again, thank you everyone who has joined in. Thank you for 4.1K likes. Thank you for sharing the live. I am working on Scattered Stars. It is the 5th block in the Quilt Along series from the Fat Quarter Shop. And then this is the last 2 flips to finish the columns. Every 2 weeks we are working on a block. So in some ways this is not my pace. If I am loving a quilt, I will absolutely work on it from beginning to end. And I will get excited, in some cases finish it. And then there are other things that have been sitting in my stash for years. So I never set out to do something once every other week. I have done in the past, I've made sampler quilts using different blocks and showing those techniques. And so I have done that kind of work, but you know, going from like August to September, to December, not so much. Okay, so everything is chained together. Remember, we had 2 columns for each block, so I am cutting out every 2 blocks. So I'm leaving these 2 together and then cutting every other, and then so I have 3 sets. We'll cut that one off. Okay. So if I did this right, hey, Miss Luria, if I did this right, when I open these back up, they should still look like that square. And I will always say should because that's what seam rippers are for. And I am a pro when it comes to those seam rippers. Okay. Oh, put those in the same row. Didn't mean to do that. But guess what? It's going to stay like that. Okay. So everything is together. If I felt some kind of way about this one and this one, I could change that because they are the same exact ones, even though I caught myself not paying attention to that, but that's okay. I'm going to then flip these down. I could press them if I want to. I'm not going to. They are still attached with that little thread because I didn't separate them. I'm going to press these at the end of this step. I'm going to line those up together. Because I'm pressing my seams to one side, I'm going to finger press them to one side the way that I want them to go. And then just add a clip just to make sure it stays there, and then take it to the machine and stitch. I do want them to be lined up in the center because that's what's going to give me those perfect corners. I like to guide with my finger. I do like to hold at the bottom, and that's why I like to use the clip right until I get up to that needle, because it helps to keep the fabric from shifting. And if it's shifted, it's not going to shift much. Okay, so that's one. Again, these are together with the little thread, and we're going to fold one on over to the other one. We're going to line up those seams. We're using our fingers to make sure that they are nested together. And then we will take this to the machine after we lined everything up, and we will stitch a 1/4 inch. Okay, and then we'll get that right there on the end. You'll notice I don't do a lot of holding of my fabric. I try very hard not to pull it because sometimes you will pull your stitches out and sometimes you will cause the fabric to wave. And we don't want the fabric to wave as much as possible because it will throw some of our stuff off at the end. Okay, and last but not least, we have this one. So the blocks go together relatively easy. There's not a lot of thinking to this. Like I said, it's that repetition over and over and over again. Now, granted, I only had 4 of these to do. One was done, so these went together relatively quickly. It'll take me a little bit longer to make the other 11 just because there's 11 of them instead of 3. Let me get up here. Now, this hand and eye coordination is never good. Whew. Okay. Let me get up to do this. And that's not going to change anything. Okay, yes it did. Okay. Need a wire out of there. Okay. Pull this out. Clip, clip, clip. Okay. So if we did this right, your corner should line up. Kids should, because that doesn't always mean that mine will. This is a little off, even though you really can't tell it, but it is. But it's not off enough for me to take it out, and then that one is good. Okay. If I felt some kind of way about it, I absolutely could go in and seam rip it out. So yeah, we're not doing that. Depending on who I gift this quilt to, if it turns out to be something that I decide to gift instead of keep, most people are not going to, that I would gift it to, are not going to be looking that close to see that, you know, that piece is a little off. They're just not. So again, we're just pressing. We're trying really, 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 really hard not to iron. So a lot of times you will see that I will let go of the iron and do something else, like get some water, just because I can just let that sit and press rather than sit there and allow it to mush around with the iron, which may distort the block. So as much as I can help it, I don't want to iron, I do want to press. Hey darling, how's it going? You know, I just don't see you anymore, hot girl. I don't know. I come over there and hang out with y'all in Clapper, and you're never on anymore like you used to be. You doing that day stuff where, you know, some of us are at work while you're not. Okay. If I feel some kind of way about the block, I can absolutely hit it with some spray starch, which will help it to lay a little bit flatter. And then that block is done. Okay, and I am going to put these in a pile together so I know where they are, because ask me how many times I can't find something and it's sitting right in front of me. Okay, in the morning. Well, no, Kate, don't you work? Because, you know, I know she doesn't. You know, because she likes to throw that in our face that, you know, she's not working. But I don't see her. You know, my Cocoa Drop finds out I'm coming in town, and she's like, let's meet up. I talk about going to Jersey, and Nina don't ask to meet up with me. I know y'all are in Clapper, but I just don't see. Well, I just must be missing her. I don't know. I'll be making my cameos and I don't see her. Probably because, you know, she's not treating my puppy right. That's probably what it is. She hiding from me. Oh, okay. And I knew you were out for a minute because, you know, it was Hot Girl Fall. So I knew that's why you didn't join us for the jelly roll. And I put the link in my bio. I know that Nina didn't need any because she gave away like 1 million of them. But you know, it is Prime, Amazon Prime, and the Tiny Spools has jelly rolls for about $25. So I know that, you know, Coco was looking for a deal with those. I was like, okay. Now I need another jelly roll like I need a hole in my head, because I still have 2 that I haven't done anything with. So I do need to do something with them before, yeah, I get another one. They might still be here next year when I'm doing a jelly roll project. I know, the morning crew. I don't know. I may be working from home on Friday. So if I'm working from home on Friday, then who knows what working from home might look like. Because that's a rare occasion that I get that treat. And then we're off for Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday. But I do know that I need to take my car in to get to the shop. Because, you know, they conveniently have the light come on and the light doesn't go off until I take it in. Okay. So then these blocks are done. And interesting enough, that not that I can put it together, this is going to be bigger than the screen that I'm going to have. I have to, because I did put 2 together that didn't go the way I wanted them to, but it's going to work this way. So this is going to be the center of the block. Like, this is how big the block is, because I still have the borders that are going to go around it. But this is what it's going to look like in the center. So I could put this together if I wanted to, just to create that center block, and then do each of the sides, and then, you know, the top and the bottom, or the sides, either way. So I could do that any way I want, but this is what the center is going to look like. Okay, so we're going to just take these and put these off to the side. And then again, now we need to work on these blocks. Now there is some squaring up that I could do for those blocks, as I'm sitting here looking for my bigger ruler, which I think is sitting on the other table. I can get that and square them all up at the same time. So these blocks are going to look like this. Okay, and I did have one over here that I used, as I had too many. And then like that. So that's how that block is going to look. You know what it is? It's this whiteboard. So for these, I can have them look any way I want. So I could have blue and blue. I can make them look any which way. But the idea for me for this is not to have 2 oranges hopefully together, or 2 blues together. That's the goal. Now, is it going to necessarily work out to be that way? Probably not. But if I can help it, I don't want 2 of the prints to be together that are the same. So even if it is blue and orange, I don't want those to be the same. And I don't want 2 of the same colors to be the same. Now, I may have 2 matches together just because I'm not paying attention to that, because that would be too much thinking, and we're not doing all that thinking. But at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that I, as best as possible, don't have the colors and the prints to be the same. And like this, right? I don't want those 2 together. Is it going to be a problem? No, but I just don't want that together. And so if I stack them and lay them all out at the same time, this will make it easier to chain stitch them together. And then what we will also find out, because this should be an even amount, is if Jennifer dropped something on the floor. And here we are to the end. And what did we say that we weren't going to do? Have those matches together or those blues together. So I don't mind these two blues together. We're going to make this work because I can switch one out. So I am going to end up with blues together, and then I am going to end up switching out. And we can do these. I don't know how I ended up with 2 extra, but we will find out when we put these together. So I'm going to come in here and hope and pray. This is this blue and this. I don't necessarily want 2 flowers together. So let me look at the orange, and then that's a flower, and that's a blue, and then that's a orange. So I can take this out and put this in. Okay, so that'll work best there. Because again, it's going to be scrappy anyway, and something might touch, but I'm just trying to mix it up as best as possible to hope that it doesn't. Okay, so all those are together. So we're gonna go back over here now, and it's time to create those 4 patches again. Wow, water. I might need these, I don't know. So what I'm going to do is add them to the pile, because if I need them, there'll be enough there, and if I don't, they'll be left over at the bottom. Okay, so everything should be facing up top for these. My half square triangles are in their right place to make, again, this block. And we're just going to begin to chain stitch everything together. So remember, we're going to flip over onto the other pile. So flip, flip, and then stitch, stitch, and then do the next one until they're all done. And then once we finish these units, we will have all 16 units together, and then it will be time to make that decision. Do we want to make a 4 patch out of all of those, which is probably what I'm going to do, or the directions suggest to sew them in rows? I'm not a fan of rows, and so I want to do it what makes it easier for me, but it's totally up to you. Flip, flip. Hello, 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 everyone. We are working on, this is what I have called Fat Tuesday for myself. I am working on Fat Quarter Shop projects on Tuesdays. This is the Jolly Bar 5 sampler. I am using a Jolly Bar, 2 Jolly Bar packs. Denim and Daisies is the line that I am using. However, I know that Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, she is using layer cakes. Layer cakes are 10-inch squares. So she said that she wanted to make her blocks a little bit bigger and then square them down. So she decided to go with the layer cake. I'm using the Jolly Bars as stated from the book. Jolly Bars are 5-inch by 10-inch rectangles. They are exclusive to Fat Quarter Shop. All of the links are in my link tree in my bio. Okay. Flip. Whoops. Only one. And there we are. After this block today, we will be halfway finished the process. So I am chain stitching this because I just find that that is much easier for me to do. Whoops. Leave it to me. Okay, I just want to make sure now that I took that out of sync of how I flipped it, that I'm putting it in the right direction, because I don't want to mess that process up. So I like chain stitching. It keeps everything in order. And for some reason, if, you know, I stopped doing this today and I worked on this tomorrow or Thursday, everything would already be in order. So it's also another reason why I like to chain stitch, because it keeps everything in order for me. Plus, it saves on thread. And while I have enough thread to last for a while, slowly but surely I am making it through my piles, and I want to make sure that, you know, I have enough. Like, I don't have to buy extra because I wasn't paying attention. Now, I will say this, because I have done this. Always make sure that when you are picking up your squares from your pile, that you are only picking up 1 and 1 and not double, because I have gone back to do some work and realized that I've sewn 3 squares together instead of 2 because I wasn't paying attention. So this is just like an assembly line, but I am making sure that I'm going in order so that they remain in the order that I need them to be in. And again, because I'm transparent about my mistakes, I will tell you that I have made mistakes where I've taken it out of order, or because I wasn't paying attention, I forgot the order and I flipped something when I should have gone down. So that happens, and you know, it's okay at the end of the day, but it just requires some seam ripping. Hey, Tammy. Tammy, I was telling everyone that Tiny Spools, the jelly roll pattern, the jelly roll that I used for the jelly roll race, they sell their jelly rolls on Amazon, and so if you have Amazon Prime, they are on sale, and they're about $25. So that link is also in my bio for that. But you know, if you're looking for jelly rolls, I did see that on here on TikTok today, and I was like, oh, okay, let me pass that information on for folks. So I text Coco. But I haven't posted it like to my page, because I came home after work and took a nap. My little children's wore me out today. And they not wearing me out. The adults are wearing me out. Okay, flip. And you can see the process kind of goes quickly. So we are almost halfway through this pile. Okay, thank you for 7.8K likes. Thank you. And I did some prep work, so this didn't take me quite as long as it could have. I did some prep work on last night while I was watching other people's lives and things like that, because this, while, you know, I don't mind this part, like this is the tedious part, putting all this together and just stitching and flipping and sewing. So I said, well, you know what, let me get the block together to show the block, and let me get some of the half square triangles already cut. And in my mind, I pressed them. And then when I got down here today, after I took my nap, I said, I didn't press them. So I had to press them here. But in my mind, I was like, let me, you know, get all this done so that I don't have to do a lot of work today. So this actually is going a little bit faster, in a sense, just because I did not have to do quite as many half square triangles. Okay, so we are down to the last two after this one. And again, this goes relatively quickly because we're just doing the assembly line. And we still had two left over. So either I'm gonna find two somewhere later and be mad. I didn't do two, which I doubt. But we'll find out when, you know, we don't have what we're supposed to have. So I know that there's always a possibility that I know I did 4 last night, and I thought I had 4, but you know, we'll find out in a minute if I'm missing 2 or if I just miscounted, which is possible because when I was cutting everything out, I said to myself that I was going to just go ahead and make what was there, because I would eventually use those squares anyway. Okay, so I don't see them like these I have here because I'm going to use them possibly for the next set that I am making. Okay, so all these are chained. And remember, we're going to do the same thing like we did before. We're going to start from the end and we're going to clip off 2. And so we're just taking every 2 . Okay, and clearly those 2 were extra because I got silent for a minute because I was counting how many of these I have, and so I have 11, and then this makes 12. Okay. So somewhere in there, I did what I was supposed to do, and I just have extra blocks. So here is that one that I did that was going to be, I think, both blue, but that's okay because it has the orange in it. Okay. But these should lay out again the way that I need them to lay out. I'm laying them out this way because if I made a mistake, I can catch that mistake now. I don't want to sew it together and then catch the mistake when I am putting the units together, because sometimes I'm not paying attention when I'm sewing, and there's nothing worse than to have to seam rip if I don't have to. See, like that was blue and blue. I really could have separated those, but not a problem. like I said, at the end of the day, it's going to be scrappy. It's going to blend in, and nobody's, like that commercial, who's going to know? Nobody's going to know. So we're just opening them up and making sure that they all do what they're supposed to do. Hey, Miss Belinda, how are you doing, darling? And the great thing about this is, like, as I'm figuring time out in my head, I can, like, I'm making the time that I thought that I was going to make with this, which is absolutely fantastic, because I try to time this out to make sure that, if I'm on beyond 11, it's not much after 11. So then once these go together, and then I press them and do what I need to do, then I'm assembling the 4 patches together to make a bigger 4 patch, and then I'll do the final 4 patch. So it's like 4 patch, 4 patch, 4 patch, 4 patch. Okay, so all these are done. I'm going to take these and put them with the other ones, because ask me who will be able to find them next week if I don't put them where they're supposed to go. And then we are going to remember we flipped over. Now we're flipping down. So we did the columns first, and now we're doing the rows. Thank you for the follow. Okay. So here we go. And again, same thing for the 4 patch. We are taking our seams, we're lining them up. We can use our fingers to finger press them so that they nest. We can use a clip to hold it in place, line up our corners, and then just take it to the machine. So we have 11 passes that we need to do. Now the one bad thing about leaving them together is sometimes they get caught up in my foot, and then I have to go in and either cut it or undo the foot, the little thread that still link the blocks together. Okay, so what I mean is this little thread here sometimes gets caught in the foot. So I try to be mindful of that when I am sewing, but sometimes it gets caught even when I'm paying attention. So I do try to make sure that that doesn't happen. And again, you can either use that clip, and I'm gonna just try to get that underneath that foot so it doesn't connect there again. It's 2. You want to teach the 9 patch one? Y'all are harassing me. So I don't, the 9 patch is not a problem. Like y'all need to tell me when. This, asking, and y'all don't give me no date. So I just, like between everything else that y'all have to do, you have to let me know when you will have your blocks together for your 9 patches. Do you need me to come on and when to go over what kind of blocks you will need for those 9 patches? Because that's up to you. Standard for the 9 patch is usually a 5-inch square, so you could get charm packs or cut your own, or you could buy the charm packs. Like, that's totally up to you. you know, you guys can tell me like when you're all going to be together, and like we can go over like dimensions and things like that if you want. So I just, you know, I need a little bit more directions. Don't ask for my plans. That's right. Look, and Tammy, don't even try it because you've been to the dark side. Okay. Like I said, the best time right now. Not that Tiny Spools does a pretty good job, or even on Amazon with their prices. But, you know, like I said, if you're interested in getting those now, I would definitely go on during these Prime days. Because, you know, like they said, they hike the price up and then they bring it down for the Prime days to act like, you know, they really had a sale when that was probably the price to begin with. But absolutely, you know, they have like Christmas colors. I saw fall. I didn't see Halloween this year. Because meanwhile, while y'all are buying jelly rolls, I just got some waterproof canvas to make this bag. Okay. And again, you can use a clip. So I'm kind of holding it with my thumb because it's not a big enough block where I can't master it while I'm holding it. If it were a bigger block, I might be a little bit more concerned. And there's a little piece of thread that might get caught there. There it is. Okay. It's not even thread. That was a frayed piece of fabric. Okay. And we are about halfway through this pile, which is absolutely fabulous. The great thing is that you start with so many pieces and like your mind goes, like that's one of the reasons why I don't do a lot of half square triangle quilts, because it can be overwhelming. And so when you are working on this on a quilt that has a lot of half square triangles, and I think like that's a reason why I like the sew along too, the quilt along, was that I wasn't making an astronomical amount of half square triangles and then being overwhelmed by them. Because if I get overwhelmed, I'm putting it down. And, you know, I can see the vision. I can see what this final project is going to look like, but it's a lot of pieces. And it just continues to look like a lot of pieces. But now at this point, with this, once I finish these last two, I will now only have 16 blocks. And 16 blocks looks a lot more manageable to me than what I had before. CN Owens, how are you? So, you know, like that, like once I get down to those kinds of numbers, then it's like, okay, you almost done, girl, you're almost done. But when it's 32 and 64, it's just like, whew, like, are we going to get through this? And, you know, it takes time to do things, but like I said, those pieces can be somewhat intimidating. So, like, I know a lot of people have been working on the bleeding heart, and I absolutely love it, but it is a ton of half square triangles. And just in my mind, when I'm looking at that, I'm like, yeah, it's not going to happen. And I absolutely could get that pattern, and I absolutely could make it. But, you know, I have to get my mind wrapped around the fact that I have to do half square triangles to get it done. And it's absolutely scrappy. I would absolutely have all of the scraps to do it. But it's those half square triangles. Thank you for 11.7K. I appreciate you. Okay, so we have all 11 of the blocks. We're going to snip, because now it's time to press, because I did not press in between those. And we're going to press, press, press. So we have a total of 16 blocks. 16 is going to become 4. And 4 is going to become 1. I'm going to move that one over there because I don't need it. And I am looking for my other ruler because I need it. And I know one place that it should be in. Okay. Because I know it's down here. I know that I did not work on a quilt lately, so it's probably in my dining room chair because I have I squared up a quilt and then did the binding on it, and that was probably the last time that I used it. Yeah, they have a lot of, so the big thing this year that I've been seeing are the ghost quilts for the Halloween. That has been like big. So the quilted witch hats have been big, and the ghost quilts. Some people are still making the ghost was a quilt. I think that's the name of the book. A lot of people have been making those, but I haven't seen those as much. But absolutely, like all the little teeny ghosts have been, you know, like the biggest thing for people. I have a lot of my quilts for Halloween. They're all at work, and it would be nice if I took them out of the bin and put them up before Halloween was over. But I don't know, I haven't, like, when they're online a lot of times, I don't see, like, if they're doing that together as a live or if they just decided to do that individually. So the group that Alfred kind of hangs with, sometimes they will, like, they're doing a farmer quilt, and then sometimes they'll agree to do, like, other quilts. If it, like, usually by the time I get into whatever they're doing, they're already into it. So I didn't miss it. And usually, like, when I catch their lives, I'm usually in the car. So I'm usually listening to the live more than participating in it. But I know they had one that they were doing with Carmen. And I didn't get a chance to participate in that one because I had so many other projects, and I was like, yeah, I'm not even gonna lie and say that I can do that one too. And I think it was a mystery quilt that they were working on. Okay. And so we're just going through because I did not press the first two that I stitched together when I stitched the columns together. And then I'm just stitching I'm just pressing the final block itself there. And if it is playing with me a little bit, then I can spritz it with the spray starch, and you'll notice I am not saturating it with it because it doesn't need a lot of starch. So the goal is not to wet up your fabric with the starch at this point. Because if your fabric, especially because we're using pre-cuts, has not been shrank completely, pre-shrink, then what this will do is it may cause it to shrink more than you like. So you don't want a lot of steam with this, and you don't want to add a lot of starch because you don't want it to shrink so that your dimensions are off. And when I mean shrink, I don't mean that the block goes from being 2 inches to 1 inch, but it could absolutely go from 2 inches to almost 1/4. Christopher, how are you doing? I love that. My brother's name is Christopher. I've never seen a Christopher. He actually hated Chris. So when his son came along, he was like, yeah, I'm not naming him Christopher. I'm like, oh my goodness. He said the name was too long for him. Okay, and again, we're just pressing. Thank you, CNN Owens, for tapping the screen for the live, for liking the live. I appreciate you. We are at 13K. Hey, Bear. What, you missed what? I can't with him. He's starting trouble. He's starting trouble now. I did. Did I? I twisted a seam. That's okay. We will make it work. Like Tim Gunn says, make it work. Oh, I saw Christopher, and my brother's name is Christopher, and my brother said that Christopher was too long. Right? Here's the thing. He said Christopher was too long. And so he didn't want to name his son Christopher. So my brother calls himself Chris because he thinks Christopher's too long. So anybody who knows him only knows him as Chris, and they only call him Chris. They don't call him Christopher. Now his sister calls him Christopher because when we were growing up, my mother said she named us Christopher and Jennifer. She did not name us Chris and Jen. So she referred to us as Christopher and Jennifer. And so I call him Christopher. Like sometimes I call him Chris. But he didn't like Christopher. Absolutely, you can ask me a question. It's not, it's not a problem. You know I love you, Bear. So he is, so I don't mind being called Jen. Rarely do people call me Jenny. And and I'm not against it. They just don't use it. That just hasn't been like the thing. So people call me Jen, they call me Jennifer. I don't care either way. But like I said, I don't know. I don't even know what my brother calls me. I don't know if he calls me, I gotta pay attention to that. I don't know if he calls me Jennifer or Jen. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't call me at all. Maybe he just says sis. Hey, Coco. But he called, so he named his brother, he named his son Jackson. Yeah, my mother was just like, no, are you and your brother twins. So yes, ma'am, we are twins. And so the interesting thing is that, well, interesting fact, my my let me back up for a minute. So just to answer the question, just because of that was that order, I would press them still if I were quilting them by hand, just because I think it lays flatter and it gives a better result. So in anything that I sew that can be pressed, I absolutely take the time to press it. But I'm not doing anything by hand. It's gonna get done by the machine. So interesting fact about the quilt, about our names. I'm older, so I'm not a new technology baby. Oh wow, you have a twin sister. That is so cool. I wish. I'm not a new we weren't new technology babies. So when my mother was pregnant with us, she didn't know that she was having twins. And she said, if I have a son, I'm going to name him Christopher. And if I have a daughter, I'm going to name her Jennifer. And when she went to deliver, and the best child came out first, and the doctor said, wait a minute, Miss G, you have another one. And unfortunately, my brother came next. So she said that she was not going to change what she had thought of. Have a good one, Bear. She said she wasn't going to change what she had already planned. And since she had already planned for Christopher and Jennifer, and she ended up with a boy and a girl, then she stuck with Christopher and Jennifer. So she did not give us twin names because she had already picked out names for a boy and a girl, and that's what she got. My mother probably had 2 lumps in her belly too and didn't know. Who knows? But yeah, she was prepared. She was prepared for the best child. She wasn't prepared for the other child. So another interesting fact. I was born on the same day that Martin Luther King. And I won't use the word because I might get dinged for it, but he left this world. And so I tell people that God told Martin that he could come home because Jennifer was here. Now, Jennifer hasn't done anything miraculous or great in this world, but I said, that's why God was able to take Martin, because Jen was here. So, and then here came my brother. So anyway, so I say one great person left the world and one great person entered the world. So here are these blocks, and then here are these blocks. So they're all done, and I need to look for my, how many minutes apart are you? We're 8. It took them too long. Like, I don't understand. What were you doing that it took you 8 minutes after me? You should have been right on time. Okay, I see my piece. I said, come on. When I cried, I said, let's go. And this man took, this baby, took 8 minutes to come on. 19 minutes, wow. Okay, so this is my bigger square. And this is what I just use. And first of all, I want to know if this block measures what it's supposed to measure. That's the most important thing. If it's close, we're good. Okay, it looks like I'm gonna be good for this one. Okay. So I do want to measure those. And if they're off, if they're a little bit bigger, and it would be nice if they were all, if I had them the same size. So if they're a little off, if they're a little bit bigger, in some cases that may happen, I can shave a little bit off to square those up so that they are the measurements that they need to be for this block. And sometimes I'm not paying attention the way that I need to. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to do those quarters. Now, what I also am trying to make sure that I have is at least a 1/4 inch seam right at those triangles, at those, so that they don't get too buried in. They may get a little bit buried in, but I don't want them to be a lot buried in when I do the seams. Okay, and so there are 18. And again, if everything was squared up, and because the blocks were a little off when I was making the half square triangles, this should be more of a concern when I was doing the first 4 patch than it should be for this one. So they should be pretty good, and I shouldn't have too much that I have to shave off. But just in case, we're going through and then just checking them out. Now, I do need to pay attention. That looks way off. I don't know what I did there. Nikki, how are you? Grandma, how is Grandmom doing? Ooh. Okay, I want to make sure everything is straight there. Oh, look, your daughter ain't gonna know what to do once you're like going permanently. Okay. Okay. Little beans there. Nikki, Coco asks, when are you coming back? I don't know why she feels like she cannot figure this out on a Saturday. She could at least give us an hour. That's all I'm saying. And you know I love my Tanisha. But I ain't had my prayer. I'm like, I don't know. Nobody does it like Miss Nikki does it. So she could at least, you know, be getting on the live and doing that much. Okay, let's see. No church announcements. That's what I'm saying. Like I'd update them. Like I need you on there. I can't harass Tanisha and tell her that she late. You know, 11ish. I enjoy my harassments. The late crew, they've been catching it. Okay. How many more? We have like six more of these to go from the 16. And we're just making sure again that our blocks are all nice and don't ask me how I have some of the wonkiness that I see, but some of that probably came from the steam and from the pressing. And that's why it's important to get back in there. And to do the sizing it. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I see that y'all are all bed tonight. Like, I'm like, wait a minute. Ain't none of them on. What kind of quilt, Antoinette, are you working on? Okay. And Coco said that is awesome. Okay. And we are getting that. Oops. I'm going to turn the wheel of time and go to bed. Love you, darling. Have a good one. I think that's going to be my next stop. But, I need Nikki to be around if I'm making a road trip to Ohio. So I'm going to have to wait for her to get out of grandmama heaven and be around for folks a little bit more. So I guess when she goes back to being live, I can make a Ohio road trip. Yeah, well, I'm just saying. It ain't nothing for me to get in a car. But I'll give you a little bit more grandmama time. Probably won't do anything before next year. So this quilt is part of the Fat Quarter Shop quilt along for the Jolly Bar. And so it's going to be what it's going to be. It will not be finished in time for Christmas because it's a quilt along. So I will probably, if I'm gifting it, gift it out of season for something else. So I probably will, I wouldn't even say probably because that would be foolish. This will not be a Christmas gift unless it's a Christmas gift in my stash for next year. I don't make a lot of quilts for Christmas gifts. There have been a few that I have made for Christmas gifts, but typically, yeah, no. So you'll get them when you get them in my family. If I have a special occasion coming up, I could probably get one done for the special occasion, but typically, yeah, I don't have the patience nor the time to sit there and get all those quilts done for a Christmas. So that's not going to happen. Like my mother and my husband, when they were living, I would, you know, make them a quilt, and they would always be last minute, and we would get those done. But yeah, that's about it. Okay, so all these blocks are done. So now it is time to think about how to lay these out. Have a good one, Coco. And I need to, so this, again, this is a big block. They do these in rows. So that's how they're telling you to put these together. So then 1, 2, okay, that's not it. 1. So then they're telling me to go, and this is where the playing around with this goes. So they're saying like put these together so they're like part of block, like they're part of a star. So then these 2 units would go together. And then I would do a unit here. And then I would do a unit here. Okay. So basically what I can do, what I'm proposing to do is to do it like this, opposed to doing a row. Now notice these 2 are here, so that's not going to work for me. I have 4 of these. Okay. So then I could do that. Okay. So what I'm saying is that if I do a 4 patch like this, then if I do, I want to see what happens, because this would go like this. And then if I turn this way, make sure they're in the right corners. Then that's not going to flip like that. Okay. So I'm going to do each one and section this off. So I just need to, and I know it should work, but I'm going to do each one. Because I don't want to do them in rows. I don't. So I'm going to do it like this. I know these 2 are right. And then this is not right. That's the problem. Now that's right. Okay. So that's the way it should look. And then if I turn this, because what I'm thinking is that every corner should look the same. And if it does, I could just do 4 of them that all look alike. And I see it, I see it, I see it. And I think it works. It's just that it's hard to see. Okay. So we're going to take this and go into here. And then we're going to go here. And we just have to make sure that we are placing these correctly. And then that again, like the making sure the placement is the way that it's supposed to be. Nope, that's not going to work for that one. It's going to be key in this. Okay, so that's the second one. Because you don't want to seam rip. Let me do, I have 4, 2, and then that'll go like that. And then hopefully, if I make everything work the way that it's supposed to, I don't have a lot of swapping out to do. Bam. Okay. So all 4 blocks are together. Now we're going to put these 4 patches together, and then all 16 blocks this is, and then we will have 4, and then those 4 will go together, and then we'll be done. Okay, so we'll flip and stitch. It just takes a minute because it took me a minute to figure it out because I was switching the order of the stitching, not the order of the quilt itself. So the quilt itself is going to still be in the same. I'm just doing a 4 patch instead of doing rows. Sometimes when I do rows, they get a little wavy on me. So I prefer to do the 4 patch because I can, you know, guarantee that it won't stretch as much. Because I'm not going across as many seams. And I just need to make sure the 2 in the center are nested. Okay, second one, over, and again, like this goes quicker because we are down to the end. Yay! Okay. And thank you, everyone. We are at 14.1K for our likes. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. But more important than that, for those of you who have been rocking out with me, I know that people have been coming in and out, which is absolutely fine. Some of us have already gone to bed as we are getting ready for work. And I am no more than a half an hour out in finishing this. And it may be sooner than that. Because once these all go together, then I only have to put the whole block together and then it'll be done. And the great thing about this is that this block is about 32 inches square. This could be a almost mini quilt by itself. So again, like getting the book is not necessarily your end result, end all be all, that you have to do the sampler or that you have to do the whole quilt. You can do parts of it and make table runners or make placemats, or you could make tote bags. So you are not, you know, limited to just making a quilt. You could absolutely make whatever it is that you would like to make. You can make a wall hanger. So if all these blocks right here, like if I were making this as a quilt, like if I had originally said this is going to be a quilt, after making this block, I might be over it. And I might say to myself that after I get this done, it's going to be a table topper. It's going to be a baby quilt. I'm going to add some borders and call it an afternoon. And you can absolutely do that. How are you doing today, Sharon? So I am making sure that, again, those seams are nested. I am using my fingers to hold that in place. And because I'm just chain stitching, it's just going right underneath the machine. I am holding everything in place. I know that some people do pulling on their fabric. I don't pull on the back of it because that a lot of times is how you break needles and also cause waves from your stitches. Okay, and we have these last two that we have here. And I saw a tip today where somebody had suggested Quilting Amiga. She has suggested using glue to kind of temporarily hold it in place when you're doing your corners. I was like, okay, I never would have thought to do that. Okay, great tip. And then we have this last one. So then we have now gone from 16 to 4. Okay. Remember, we put 2 together, we clip, 2 together, clip, 2 together, clip. So we left those 2. I should still see what I am supposed to see in that center. And then we put those 2 together, and this is going to finish off that block. If for some reason you have a lot of stuff going toward the center, this is the time when you might decide to press open your seams. So usually when I get to this point, if I have a lot of half square triangles, I will press open the seams. I will finger press this as I'm doing here now. I will go back and do a good press after I put these blocks together. Okay, and we're just lining those up and taking our time to line those up to make sure those seams are clipped. I'm gonna go over here, nest these seams and clip them. And if I get lucky, I have another clip right here, and we're gonna nest these seams. So because the block is bigger, I am clipping more times than I did when the blocks were smaller. And that's just to hold everything together so that when I take it to the machine, hopefully all my seams will line up. Sometimes when I am stitching seams that are pressed to one side, sometimes your foot will want to push it back towards you. And so then I go over those seams very slowly. So that's why you will see me slowing down at some points, and then other points where I can go relatively fast. Especially if it wants to push back, I will get it like right under the foot. I might have to lift it up a little bit and then do what I need to do. Okay, 1 block down, 3 to go. We're going to open that back up, use the same clips. How are you doing, Shirley? Okay, I have not done my spiel in a while, so I am working on the Jolly Bar 5 Quilt Along, sponsored by the Fat Quarter Shop. This is a 10 block quilt that we are working on. We are using blocks from the Jolly Bar 5 book, volume 5 book, to create this sampler quilt. The book itself has represented 20 blocks that create 20 different quilts. You are doing the same block over and over and over again to create the quilt. So with the sampler, you get an opportunity to make 10 of those blocks. and then to make a sampler quilt, which would give you, you know, at least one of the blocks. If not, in some cases, they do have more than one, just to round the sampler out. You can decide to do the sampler quilt, or you can decide just, why doesn't that laying flat? Or you can decide to just do, you know, your own thing. But, you know, I think that the blocks are really cute. For the whole book, it's less than 11 little buckaroos, and because of that, you get 20 patterns for that, which is a great deal. And so even if you only use 2 or 3 of them, that still is like the going rate for one these days. So it would give you a lot of options. You do not have to use them solely for quilts. Again, you could make table runners, you could make table toppers, placemats, you could make wall hangings, baby quilts. You don't have to make what they have there. You can absolutely alter it to fit your needs. Okay, and again, we are opening up that center seam. So I am pressing the center seam open just to reduce some of the bulk that I'm seeing, because I do have some half square triangles all meeting up. And so I do want to reduce that bulk there. It's going to make a difference when I take it to the machine and quilt, because sometimes our needles do not like to go through a whole bunch of layers. Okay, and we're going to get that open. Okay, so this will be on YouTube, so I will be posting it there, so that if for some reason you have to go back to say, how does she put those together again? You can fast forward in the video to this spot to see how I put them together. If you don't remember something. So I will post the block tomorrow. I will post a video shortly after that. Everything is supposed to be posted tomorrow. That's part of the deal. So I will have all the measurements. Well, not the measurements, but how many blocks you will need if you have the book to make this particular block. All of that stuff will be posted. And I will not, when I say tomorrow, like, I will not be up at 12 o'clock my time trying to do that tonight. Even though I am good for that. My principal will be out tomorrow. I have a climate manager out tomorrow. So I need to be up and alert. One more we have to go for this, and then we can press them. And then after we press them, we have one more 4-patch to go, which is to put all 4 of these blocks together, and we will be, like I like to say it, done. And so again, like part of this block, it's a bigger block. Like I said, it's almost 33 inches square. The thing with this block is that, like, it's a big block, so it takes a little bit of time to do. But also remember that, you know, when you're thinking about time for you, it probably, depending on skill set, won't take you as long as it's taking me to do this. It's taking me longer because I am explaining, showing, stopping, commenting. So those things will take me a little bit longer to get the process done than if I were just sitting in the quiet space of my own home, just like focusing completely on this. And then once I get the hang of this, if I had chain pieced everything to make an entire quilt, then I would have done all the pieces. And this would have moved a lot faster to get the whole thing done. But like I said, I'm not necessarily one to like to do a whole lot of half square triangles. I will do them if I really like the pattern, but yeah. If I can help it, yeah, no. So a lot of times when you see the quilts that I'm doing, you don't see a lot of half square triangles in them because it's not necessarily, you know, my cup of tea, but, you know, I do like the looks of them and absolutely will do them. I do like patches. I don't mind flying geese, and actually prefer flying geese over a half square triangle. And if I can help it, if I can make a flying geese instead of a half square triangle, I will. Thank you, Shirley, for being number 21 in the fan club. Thank you for getting your daily heart me's. Hey, Anna, I did repost your special. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to press these. We're going to put them together, and then we're out. Hey, Miss D, how have you been, darling? I have been loving those bombers, even though I still say I got too much gut and butt for it, but I can't wait for the release of those bombers. I can't wait. I just got too much gut and butt. I'm like, that ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work for me. Okay. Awesome. Are you going to do another pattern before the end of the year, or are you kind of closing up now in October? Because you went like full throttle with that. I was like, okay, girl, I am not mad at you. Okay, so again, we're just kind of pressing, and this was the place right here where all those, see, like the half square triangles all meet up. So there was going to be a lot of bulk right there. And that's why I opted to press those open. Okay. Look, you've been working. I was like, okay. So one day when I grow up, I'm going to be like Miss D. I'm not there yet. I said, maybe when I retire, I don't know. Okay. Okay. And we're just going along. As I'm sitting here listening to my iron spit. That's because somebody should have used her new iron that she has that's still sitting in the box rather than using the old iron that she has had for years. So I don't even know when I won this iron that I have, but I should be using it. Oh, this one I wasn't supposed to open. Okay. I'm looking and I'm like, why does that look funky? And this looks funky because I wasn't supposed to open that one. I was supposed to open this one. So, and then you can see this is why I don't like to do opening. Working on spring patterns. Okay. I need a less fitted outfit for that doesn't have pants for me. you know, for the grandmas. Okay. I probably could have turned on that steam just to get it. And the good thing is that with this, I can go back and then do this a little bit more. So I'll give it an overall press right now, and then I will go back in with some spray starch and really get those seams to lay flat. Okay. Okay. There we go. Just add a little bit of steam just to kind of get them to lay a little bit flatter. Okay. So we have 4 of these, but this is what it's going to look like. So that's 1. And with the steam in it, that's going to help just to move this process along just a little bit faster. Because like I said, for me, I can't stand to open up seams. But pressing those seams and letting this iron sit on them is taking me way too long. So if I open them and use a little bit of steam, I'll get it done a little bit faster than I would if I used spray starch or just straight pressing. Okay. And you can kind of see how that's moving a lot faster for me. First of all, I'll get the hang of it. Because once I get into a rhythm, it'll work a lot better anyway. And second of all, because of the steam, it'll help to kind of flatten that out. And then if I flip it over, I can get where it kind of folded on me a little bit. And then we'll put all of these together. I'll probably spare you the good ironing, and then we'll be done. Okay. And this is like the biggest block of all of the blocks. So this is the block that is going to take the longest to put together because it's the biggest block. So we go back to doing a smaller block next week. No, in 2 weeks. We'll go back to doing a smaller block and it won't take as long. So this is taking longer because it's a bigger block that we're going to finish with. So like right now, this block that I'm doing here would be the block that all the other size blocks would be. In this case, this block is huge. Like I said, it's almost like a quilt itself. Okay. I'm just making sure that everything is just as flat as we can get it. And again, we can give it a good starch and a good press at the end. But like I said, at 32 inches, like you figure a baby quilt is about 36 to 40. So at 32, this is big. Okay, 2 more to go. So of course, you know, now I'm off my time because, you know, the goal was 11:30 and It's going to look more like maybe 11:45-ish. And that's just because, yeah, I'm actually like doing what I'm supposed to do, which is to press. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, which is to size it up. If you don't follow those steps, then you could absolutely finish it, and then you would be doing a lot of pressing at the end, and it might not lay as flat as you want it to because you didn't size it up. But here's the thing, even if I wouldn't have sized it up, you saw how much came off of each one when I was sizing it up. So it wasn't a lot. So you shouldn't be too far off. Like, you're not inches off with this because there wasn't a whole lot for me to take off. Tootie B, how are you doing, love bug? Your clapper crew, they were on. I think one or two may still be on, but most of them turned in for the evening. Awesome. It's always great to see when everyone is doing well. As usual, when I got home, because I was like, oh, I'm gonna go on live, let me take a nap. So I'm wide awake because I took a nap. Okay, we'll flip this over. We have one more to go. So, because otherwise, I should be in bed. I know I have to be at the front door tomorrow. Waiting for my little cherubs. Okay, cool. Okay. And then one more. Yes, ma'am. So I knew this would be a big block for the Fat Corner Shop. And I did some prep work for it, but clearly not enough. So this calls for a lot of half square triangles, and you then square up those half square triangles. So it was a lot of half square triangles to square up. And then after you square up your half square triangles, then you start with the first 4 patch, and then there's a lot of squaring up for that. It's not a lot, but I wanted to square up for those two. Then from those, we had to make, after that 4 patch, then now we're making this 4 patch. And then there's the final 4 patch. So the pattern does call for this to be in rows, but I opted to do them in 4 patches because I just felt like it would go together easier and I might have less waving that way. But it then required me to pay attention with my eyes. So hopefully I didn't mess that up, because you're going to see mess up in real time. And then you might see me wearing something different tomorrow when I'm fixing it. Because I'll be too busy cussing myself out tonight to fix it tonight. But I think I should be, keyword is should be okay. So this is a relatively easy one to do of the sew-alongs in terms of getting everything done, because 1 week I am cutting out everything and getting it prepped for the live, and then the next week I am actually sewing it. And I don't do the live for the cutting out because don't nobody want to see me cut out no fabric. So I just post a picture for the live, for the prep, you know, just to say, hey, I prepped everything and I'll be going on next week to put it together. Thank you everyone for 14.8. And again, thank you for those of you who are still hanging with me. I know some people will catch the picture at the end tomorrow when I post it, or on YouTube to see the end if they need to. So, you know, like I said, it was a lot tonight in terms of getting this done. Okay. Okay. Now. Hopefully, if I did this right, I should see what I think I should see. Okay, so I have my center here, and good, and good, and good. Okay, so we're gonna flip and flip, because y'all can't even see that on camera. That's how big this is. And we're gonna put these two together. And after these two go together, we will be finishy. Okay. Okay, and I should be able to get all those corners together. And again, you can clip it if you prefer, but it's late and it lines up. And so I'm gonna let it line up and do what it do. And then we go here. And then here. Oh. Okay. And I am doing a back stitch with these just to make sure that everything stays in place, because there are a lot of ends and I don't like it when, especially when I have blocks that are sitting around for a while, because sometimes through the handling, those ends will come undone, those seams will come undone, and so I'm trying real hard to make sure that I back stitch on the ends so that, you know, those are all staying in place. Okay, line these two up. So once I get these two together, the great thing is that We only have then to put the 2 rows together, and that'll be done. I forgot to put some money in the safe. Cool beans. Okay. And then we're going to take this and open these up. And now this is a lot of seams that you got to match up. But again, we'll be okay. We're going to open up these seams in the center. So I will use a clip for that. I might not use a clip for everything else. And then once I do this final seam, the block itself, what they're calling a block, will be done. But like I said, this could be a quilt or a table topper or a baby quilt all by itself, because that's how big this is. Okay, we're going to clip. And then we're going to start down this end. I may have to do just a video all within itself for this, but it won't be tonight. Okay, so we're going to go. Okay. Oh, I'm about to say, I know I wasn't out of thread, because I have been sewing for a while, and you know that bobbin could be out. Okay. We're going to, got a little crooked there on the corner, so we're going to get that under there, make it work. Okay, and then coming to that center. Okay, needle down. We're going to line up the next 2. Underneath. We're going to line up the next 2. And again, like, me doing all this would not necessarily happen if I pinned it, but it's getting late and I'm over it. And I'll be fine. Like, I'm never over it. Like, for the project itself, I'm just over following directions in terms of doing it the way it's supposed to be done. So we know we're supposed to clip and pin, but we'll be okay. And again, I'll worry about squaring this up and doing all that tomorrow. if I get lucky. And I'm looking just to make sure that everything kind of looks the way it's supposed to, which it does. So that means that it looks like I did the right thing. Okay, let me press this. And then I may have to take this outside tomorrow. It's supposed to rain. It's supposed to rain tomorrow. So if it rains tomorrow, then I don't know. I could hang it up and then take a picture that way, because it's not going to fit in frame. I can, I can absolutely turn the camera a little bit to do that. But like I said, this is huge in terms of the other blocks. So this is like taking 4 of those blocks and putting them all together to create this one. Thank you, Miss Shirley. So this is the, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is the center block for the sampler. And the way the individual block looks, there's no way that you could have just made an individual block from this. So you had to make this big block the way that it is. The good thing is that, like, if I wanted to, if I really like, and I mean, I'm making the sampler, but if I wanted to, I could have taken this block and, like I said, either, been over it after the first one. But if I cut everything out, then I could go back to it later and then work on the next block and then the next block, because I would say that I could shave probably an hour out of this if I weren't on live. I don't want to include cutting because I would have cut it all at one time and would have mass cut. So I don't know how long it would have taken to cut, but the actual sewing. So I could have finished the whole quilt like within a couple days. And if I would sit in one day and do it, I could get it done. But this would not be the quilt that I would aspire to do in one day. Thank you again for getting me to 15,000 K for the likes. And again, thank you for those of you who either just came in and or who have been rocking with me for the entire time. I know some of you just kind of like tune in and then you tune out and tune back in, which is absolutely fine. Thank you for those of you who picked up your daily heart me's. As I know that, TikTok is kind of changing the way in which they are expecting people to engage in lives. I think really all we're doing is just going in and out of lives and trading our daily heartbeats, if you ask me. Okay. And we're just getting, like, really, me personally, it's about getting those seams flat for me. And again, like, I will go in with this and really like use the starch to really help to secure the flatness of this. I guess that's why they call it flatter. Okay. But like I said, this looks like a quilt. Like, that's how big this is. And again, like if you did the whole thing, and this is like almost 33 inches, if I were to make 3 more, this would be about 66 inches square for a quilt. Add a border, you're talking almost 70. Hey, Tajari, how are you doing, darling? I can't believe you're still up. Even though you're late night like me. Okay, we got a little bit of a thread, so we're just going to come in here because I don't like the way this looks. Okay, I got a couple threads that came through on the other side, and they just bug me. Okay, I just want to give this a little bit of a press. I'm using flatter, and I haven't talked about this much. I do like it. I'm not going to say that I like flatter over best press, because to me, really, I didn't see the difference. I did like, I do like the smell of this. I don't have a, like, I like the smell of it. You know how you just like a fragrance? So it's not that I think that it has a better smell than, did I say Steam and Seam? Than Best Press. It doesn't necessarily have a better smell. It just has a different. So if I'm sitting here and I'm pressing and I just really just want to, you know, whiff their scent, then absolutely I love this scent. And would have no problem sniffing it all day. But other than that, it would be the price point for me. So if I can find one cheaper than the other one, that's the one I'm going with. I'm doing fine, darling. I am about maybe 5 minutes out from finishing. Well, I'm finished, right? So I just have to close out the live, but we're finishing up. And to know me is to know all this stuff is going to sit right here until tomorrow. I just got a hump there that I don't like. And so I would, you know, go back onto the other side of this tomorrow, and then just anything that rolled the wrong way, I'll press that back so that it just lays nice and flat. But again, because this is more like a whole quilt, I would absolutely go in here and get like those little pieces to really lay flat. And then to make sure that they're going in the right direction, because those humps are going to be a little bit harder to get over when I take this to the long arm. Okay, so I think that I have, and again, like I will go over this a little bit more like tomorrow offline, just so that I hit everything. I just wanted to lay a little flatter, just so that you can kind of see the overall look of it. And I feel like it just needed a better press than what I was giving it, so it doesn't look wrinkly and ugly. Okay, cool beans. Okay. Okay, so there we go, with my water can in front of it and everything. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so you can see that this is the block. And so it is all been constructed. It is all together. The lighting is not all that great to really do the orange justice, but and like I said, it needs a little bit more pressing to it, but it is done. So we are finished. The fifth block, this is Shattered Stars. And like I said, it is a big block. If you were not going to use this as a block, you could absolutely use this as a table runner, if you would like. So let's see. So then that's done. This is finished, and we are now ready for the next block. So just to recap for you before we go, we are using the Jolly Bar book. This is by the Fat Quarter Shop, so you can absolutely find it on your using the link in my bio. There are 20 quilts here. I wrote already in this, so you can see here that these are all of the blocks that we're doing. We started with the hatchling block that's right here. We finished that one. We finished the holly berry block. Then we worked on Northern Lights, refractions, and you can see that this one was the Scattered Stars. And it looked teeny weeny, but that block was humongous. So in 2 weeks now, we will be working on Somersault. So we will do this one. And again, that is an easy one. And I don't think that I mark anything else. Variations, there's 4. So Somersault is just 1 block, not as big. Timberland will be 1 block, not as big. We'll do variations. It is a simpler block, but there are 4 of them that we need to do. We will work on the Wildflower. Is it Windflower? Windflower. We'll work on that. It's only 1. And then we have the X's and O's. And then that one will be done. And that'll be done on December 17th. So that will be the last block, and then we'll put everything together. So these are all the blocks that we will be working on. These are the 10 out of the 20 that are available, but each one of these blocks makes a complete quilt depending on how many blocks you need in it to make the quilt. So for example, like this one, the Brookside, you know you're going to need a lot of blocks to make this final quilt because this is just 1 block and it's small. This is about the biggest block that there is. So you can get this again. You can find the link on my in my link tree. It's in my bio. If you're on YouTube, it will be found linked below, but you can actually do this. This is Denim and Daisies. Denim and Daisies is the print, and you can see right here where them points didn't necessarily point the way I needed it to, but it's going to stay like this. I'm perfectly okay with that. Flaws work for me. I think it adds character. So thank you again, everyone. Thank you for tapping the screen. We are at 15.7K. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for that. Thank you for the Deli Heart Me's. Thank you for rocking out with me, asking questions, and keeping me company. I truly appreciate everyone. Thank you, Miss Shirley, for joining me this evening. It was so nice to meet you. Hope to see you again. And I just wish everyone a good evening, a good night, and happy Wednesday, Thursday, and the rest of the week. Have a good one.